The morning started like any other in New York City, with the usual hum of traffic and the occasional shout of street vendors. Captain John Mercer, a decorated military strategist, was on leave, enjoying coffee with his brother Mike at a bustling cafe near Central Park. "Seriously, John, when are you going to take a real break?" Mike laughed, clinking his cup against John's. "Just getting started," John smirked, glancing at his watch. Suddenly the ground trembled. It wasn't the familiar rumble of the subway. This was different, ominous. As patrons spilled out of the cafe, their eyes turned skyward. Massive metallic objects descended through the clouds, casting great shadows over the cityscape. John's military instincts kicked in. "Mike, get inside and stay down," John shouted, pulling his brother back as people around them started to panic. "What the hell are those things?" Mike asked, his voice shaking as they took cover. "Unknown, but I intend to find out. Stay here. I need to make a call," John said, pulling out his phone to dial his contacts at the Pentagon. Before he could connect, a piercing sound cut through the air, followed by beams of light that shot down from the ships, engulfing buildings and streets. Screams echoed as people disappeared in the light. John watched in horror. This was an abduction on a massive scale. He finally got through to his contact, General Davis. "General, this is Mercer. We have a situation here. I'm witnessing an active extraterrestrial engagement in Manhattan. Abductions, massive ships. We need immediate response and—" "I know, Captain. It's happening everywhere. Get to the nearest base. We're mobilizing," the general replied tersely. John grabbed his brother's arm, dragging him through the back alleys to avoid the chaos on the streets. "Mike, listen to me. I have to go, but I'll come back for you. Find a place to hide. Don't try to be a hero." "No way, John. I'm not letting you face this alone," Mike insisted, his jaw set. John looked into his brother's eyes, seeing the same stubborn determination that ran in their family. "All right, but stick close and keep your head down. Let's move." They navigated through the panicking crowd, making their way toward the military rendezvous point in the city. As they moved, John relayed information back to the general, detailing the ship's positions and the areas hit hardest by the abductions. Reaching the makeshift command center, a fortified underground parking garage, John and Mike found it buzzing with activity. Soldiers, government agents, and a few other bewildered civilians who had been caught in the fray were all preparing for what came next. Captain Sarah Jang, an intelligence officer, approached John with a map lit up with real-time data. "Captain Mercer, we've got incoming reports from all over the globe. It's a coordinated strike." John studied the map, noting the strategic points. "Their technology is beyond anything we've seen, but they've shown their hand. Our priority is civilian safety and gathering intel. We need to hit them hard and fast with everything we've got." Mike, who had been listening intently, chimed in. "And how exactly are we supposed to fight back against something like that?" "With every resource at our disposal," John replied, his voice firm. "Sarah, coordinate with the other units. We need a global strike plan. And keep tracking those abductions. I want a rescue operation ready to go as soon as we understand more." As they plunged into planning, John felt a grim determination settle over him. They were under attack, but they were far from defeated. Humanity would stand its ground, no matter the cost. The improvised command center hummed with tense activity as Captain John Mercer and his team worked around the clock. Displays lit up with data, and radio communications crackled with updates from around the globe. John, alongside his brother Mike and Captain Sarah Jang, monitored the situation closely. "Captain Mercer, we've intercepted a transmission from the alien ships. It's being broadcast worldwide," one of the communications officers announced, adjusting the frequency so the message could play over the speakers. The voice that filled the room was cold, metallic, devoid of emotion. "People of Earth, we are the Vorik. Your resistance is futile. Submit to our rule, and survivors will be spared. Defy us, and face annihilation. You have 24 hours to respond." The room fell silent as the message ended. John's jaw tightened. "There's our answer, then. They want a planet of slaves." Mike looked over the maps scattered across the table. "There's no negotiating with that. What's the plan, John?" "Negotiation was never on the table. We strike back," John declared, turning to Sarah. "How are our countermeasures coming?" Sarah nodded briskly, pulling up schematics on her tablet. "We've been working on deciphering their shielding technology. It's advanced, but we've found potential vulnerabilities. However, we need a closer look at their hardware, something we can only get if we board one of their ships." John considered this, then his eyes hardened with resolve. "Then that's what we'll do. Prepare a strike team. We'll take one of their smaller vessels. As preparations for the mission went underway, John briefed the selected soldiers, including himself and Mike. They dressed in tactical gear, loaded with the latest in weaponry and tech, designed to combat the alien invaders. Hours later, hidden under the cover of darkness and the chaos still unfolding around the world, John led his team through the devastated streets towards where a Vorek scout ship had landed. The area was eerily quiet, the ship's sleek metallic surface gleaming under the moonlight. "Stay sharp, everyone. We go in, we grab what we need, and we get out," John instructed, his voice a whisper. The team moved in a tight formation, using the debris and crumbled buildings as cover. As they approached the ship, a sudden burst of light scanned the area. The team froze, but the light passed over them without stopping. Mike's idea of a makeshift jamming device seemed to be working. Reaching the ship's exterior, Sarah quickly assembled a portable hacking device to bypass the entry. With a soft hiss, the hatch opened, revealing the dimly lit interior. The team slipped inside, weapons at the ready. Inside, the technology was unlike anything they had ever seen. Panels with flowing symbols, pulsating lights, and the hum of alien machinery. John led the way to what appeared to be the control center, where Sarah and another tech specialist began downloading data from the ship's systems. Suddenly, an alarm blared throughout the vessel. "We've been detected! Move fast!" John barked, watching the doorway as shadows began to move towards them. A skirmish erupted as Vorek soldiers, unlike any terrestrial humanoid, charged. They were taller, their skin a metallic sheen, eyes devoid of emotion. The firefight was intense, the air filled with the sound of gunfire and alien weaponry. After a tense battle, John and his team managed to repel the attackers long enough for Sarah to finish her task. "Got it! Let's move!" she shouted, clutching the device with the critical data. The team retreated under heavy fire, sprinting back towards the hatch. They burst out into the night, racing back to the safety of their base as the scout ship lifted off, damaged but still operational. Back at the command center, John handed off the stolen data to the tech teams. "Analyze it. Find me a weakness," he ordered, then turned to his team. "Good work out there. Rest up. We're just getting started." As the team dispersed, John and Mike shared a look of grim determination. This was only the beginning of their fight, but now, armed with new knowledge and a captured alien weapon, humanity had a fighting chance. Center, Captain John Mercer reviewed the data extracted from the Vorek scout ship with a team of top military strategists and scientists. The room was tense, each person aware of the gravity resting on their shoulders. John's brother, Mike, stayed close, observing the technical analysis with keen interest. "Here's what we know," Sarah began, projecting the alien schematics onto the screen. "Their shielding technology uses a frequency we've not seen before, but we've identified a pattern. If we can disrupt this frequency, even momentarily, their shields might fail." John nodded, absorbing the details. "What do we need to make that happen?" One of the scientists, Dr. Helen Choi, chimed in. "We've started developing a frequency disruptor based on this data, but we need more resources, materials that aren't easy to come by under current conditions." "Then we'll get you what you need. Mike, coordinate with logistics. Whatever Dr. Choi and her team need, they get," John directed, turning to his brother, who nodded sharply and started typing requests into his tablet. John's next move was to bolster their offensive capabilities. He opened a secure line to other resistance cells globally, patching through video feeds that filled the screen with faces of Allied commanders. "Ladies and gentlemen," John addressed the gathered leaders, his voice firm and commanding, "the time to act in unison is now. We've identified a way to breach the Vorek shields, but we need to strike simultaneously across the globe. We're not just defending our homes now. We're on the offensive." The commanders exchanged nods and words of agreement, each one aware of the coordinated effort needed to take down a common enemy. As they outlined their available forces and resources, John felt a surge of solidarity. A united front was forming. With plans set in motion, John turned his attention to training squads and guerrilla tactics specifically designed for combating the Vorek. These training sessions were rigorous, combining conventional warfare with the alien technology they had begun to understand. John personally oversaw the training of several units, pushing them to their limits. "Remember, these creatures aren't invincible," John coached as he walked among the troops during a simulation. "Stay mobile, use cover, and keep your comms open. Hit them hard and fast, then move before they can regroup." As the preparations continued, news of small victories began to trickle in. Resistance cells had successfully defended key locations and even recaptured territories. Each win, no matter how small, was celebrated and analyzed for its strategic value. In one such briefing, Sarah brought an update that shifted their focus. We've intercepted a Vorik communication indicating they're amassing forces for a major strike against major resistance hubs. They're getting desperate. Which means they're vulnerable, John concluded. We need to be ready to counterstrike as soon as they make their move. He scheduled a series of simulated attacks on their own bases, testing the readiness of their defenses. Each drill was meticulously critiqued, every soldier and officer aware that the real battle would be infinitely more challenging. During a rare quiet moment, John and Mike sat with cups of coffee, staring at a digital map dotted with markers representing both Vorik and human positions. We're actually doing this, aren't we? Mike mused aloud, a hint of awe mixed with fear in his voice. We are, John affirmed, clenching his jaw. And we're going to win, because we have to. There's no other option. As the 24-hour deadline loomed closer, John addressed his assembled forces, a diverse array of men and women hardened by battle and united by a common cause. This is it, John declared, his voice echoing in the packed room. Tonight, we strike with everything we've got, not just for our survival, but for the future of humanity. We stand together, not just as soldiers, but as defenders of our home. Let's show them what Earth can do. Cheers filled the room, the sound fierce and determined. As they dispersed to their positions, John felt the weight of leadership heavy on his shoulders, tempered by the resolve to see this through, no matter the cost. Under the shroud of night, the resistance prepared for a coordinated global assault. In the makeshift command center, Captain John Mercer reviewed the final details of the operation. The room buzzed with low conversations and last-minute equipment checks. Mike, how are the teams looking? John asked, glancing at his brother who was coordinating with various unit leaders through a secured network. They're ready, John. Everyone knows what's at stake, Mike responded, his voice steady despite the underlying tension. John nodded and turned to Captain Sarah Jang, who was overseeing the communication systems. Sarah, ensure all teams are synced. I want updates the moment they engage. Already on it, Captain. We'll have real-time feedback from every strike team, she assured him, her focus never wavering from her screens. As the clock ticked down, John addressed the room, his voice cutting through the murmurs. This is it. Remember, we're not just fighting for our lives, but for our planet. We strike hard and fast, and we don't stop until they're driven off our world. The room erupted in a unified shout of determination, the sound echoing off the concrete walls. In the first light of dawn, resistance cells across the globe initiated their attacks. In New York, John led one of the main assaults, targeting a key Vorik stronghold, where they believed a large group of humans was being held. The battle was fierce. Vorik soldiers, surprised by the sudden and organized onslaught, scrambled to retaliate. However, the element of surprise, coupled with John's strategic planning, gave the humans an edge they hadn't possessed in previous skirmishes. John and his team navigated through the ruins of the city, moving toward their target. Explosions and gunfire filled the air, a chaotic symphony that underscored the intensity of their resolve. Keep moving, push forward, John commanded as they breached the outer defenses of the stronghold. Inside, they encountered stiff resistance. Vorik warriors, tall and imposing with their gleaming armor, fired energy weapons that turned the air electric. John ducked behind a fallen beam, signaling his team to flank the enemy's position. With precise, coordinated moves, they took down the Vorik squad, clearing the way deeper into the stronghold. In the heat of the battle, Mike proved his worth, covering John's back as they advanced. Left side, 2 more incoming, Mike shouted, taking down a Vorik soldier with a well-placed shot before the creature could fire. As they fought their way through the complex, they finally reached the holding area. The scene that greeted them was grim. Rows of humans, weak and disoriented, trapped in energy cells. John's heart clenched at the sight, but he wasted no time. Sarah, we need those cells open, now. Working quickly, Sarah hacked into the Vorik system, bypassing the alien security protocols. One by one, the cells deactivated, and people began to stumble out, squinting in the dim light. Everyone, move! We're getting you out of here, John directed, organizing the group and providing cover as they made their escape. Outside, the battle raged on, but with every freed prisoner, the human fighters found renewed vigor. They fought not just as soldiers, but as liberators, their morale boosted by the tangible results of their efforts. Back at the command center, reports flooded in. Similar scenes of liberation and victory were being echoed around the world. The resistance was gaining ground, turning the tide against the Vorak invaders. Exhausted but exhilarated, John watched as medics attended to the freed captives. Mike clapped him on the shoulder, a grin breaking through the grime on his face. "We did good today, John. We did real good." John nodded, allowing himself a moment to take it in. "We did, Mike, but it's not over yet. We've shown them we can hit back. Now we need to keep up the momentum." As the sun set on a battered yet unbowed Earth, John knew the fight was far from over. But today they had struck a significant blow. Today they had shown the Vorak that humanity would not bow down. They would fight, and they would win. In the aftermath of the successful rescue missions, morale among Earth's resistance forces soared. The network of global resistance cells, orchestrated by Captain John Mercer, had dealt a significant blow to the Vorak invaders. As they regrouped, the Resistance's focus shifted to leveraging their newfound momentum. Back at the command center, John convened a strategy meeting with key leaders and advisors, including his brother Mike and Captain Sarah Jang. The walls of the makeshift briefing room were lined with digital maps flashing with real-time updates from around the globe. "All right, team, let's assess our current standing. Sarah, give us the overview," John commanded, his gaze fixed on the large screen at the front of the room. Sarah activated the display, showing various points of conflict and captured Vorak technology. "Since our last offensive, we've successfully held 7 major urban centers and recaptured critical resources. Additionally, we've integrated Vorak technology into our own systems, enhancing our defensive and offensive capabilities." John nodded in approval, his mind racing through the implications. "Good. Now, we need to transition from defense to sustained offensive operations. Our next target should be their main supply lines. Cut those and we stifle their ability to fight." Mike leaned over the map, pointing to a series of marked locations. "These are the supply routes we've identified based on the patterns observed in the last week. The main hub seems to be here." He indicated a point near what used to be a small city, now converted into a Vorak stronghold. "That's going to be heavily guarded," John mused, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "We'll need a diversion, maybe even multiple to stretch their defenses thin." "I suggest we launch feint attacks on these outer posts," Sarah proposed, highlighting additional points on the map. "That should draw their forces outward, allowing a strike team to infiltrate the main hub." John agreed with a firm nod. "Prepare the plans. I want those feints to look convincing. Mike, you'll lead one of the diversion teams. I'll take point on the main assault." The next few days were a flurry of preparation. John and his team meticulously planned every detail of the upcoming operation, coordinating with resistance cells across the world to synchronize their efforts. When the day of the operation arrived, the resistance launched their feint attacks. Explosions and skirmishes broke out at the designated points, drawing Vorak forces away from the main supply hub as predicted. Under the cover of chaos, John led an elite team towards the primary target. They moved stealthily, using the urban terrain to their advantage. As they approached the hub, the sound of distant battles filled the air, a stark reminder of the high stakes of their mission. The hub was less defended than usual, but still formidable. John's team used every tool at their disposal, employing both human and captured alien technology to breach the perimeter. Inside, they encountered a maze of storage facilities and command centers. The team split up, planting explosive charges and gathering intelligence. John, alongside a small squad, pushed deeper into the facility, searching for the main control room. They found it guarded by a contingent of elite Vorak soldiers. A fierce firefight ensued. John and his team used tactical maneuvers to outflank the aliens, exploiting the Vorak's slower adaptation to urban guerrilla tactics. After securing the control room, Sarah, who had accompanied the strike team, quickly worked to download critical data, while John held the door against any counterattacks. "Almost got it. And done," Sarah exclaimed, yanking out the data storage device just as the charges set around the facility began to detonate. The team evacuated swiftly, racing through the disintegrating complex, dodging debris and collapsing structures. They emerged into the night, the facility a roaring inferno behind them. As they rendezvoused with the other teams, reports came in of similar successes across the globe. The coordinated strikes had severely disrupted the Vorak supply chains, giving humanity a significant strategic advantage. Breathing heavily, John looked around at his team, their faces lit by the firelight, a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration in their eyes. "We've turned the tide today," he declared. "Let's make sure it stays that way." With the Vorak supply lines in disarray and their operational tempo disrupted, John Mercer realized the Resistance had a crucial window to strike at the heart of the alien command structure. The gathered intelligence from the previous raids had pinpointed a central command ship in Earth's orbit, acting as a hub for the Vorak forces. John convened a strategic meeting with his top advisors and military leaders in the fortified command center. The walls of the room were lined with digital displays showing satellite imagery and intercepted communications from the Vorak fleet. Based on what we've gathered, this command ship coordinates the Vorak forces globally. Taking it out could cripple their operations here on Earth, John explained, pointing to the glowing image of a massive angular ship hovering in low Earth orbit. Sarah Jiang added, "We've cracked part of their communication protocol. There's a narrow window when they sync with the ground forces for updates. We could exploit this, insert a team to deliver a crippling blow." John nodded, his expression grave. "It's going to be the riskiest operation we've attempted. We need a volunteer strike team. This is beyond the call of duty. I won't order anyone on this mission." Without hesitation, Mike stepped forward. "You're going to need someone who knows how to get in and out of tight spots. I'm in." Several others, hardened by previous battles and driven by losses, joined him. John looked over the volunteers, pride and concern etched in equal measure across his face. "All right, let's get you ready then." The plan was daring. The strike team would use a captured Vorak shuttle modified by resistance engineers to mimic a returning patrol craft. They would dock with the command ship during the communication sync, theoretically unnoticed among the routine traffic. As the team geared up, John pulled Mike aside. "Keep your head down out there. Make sure everyone comes back." Mike clapped John on the shoulder, a tight smile on his face. "We'll do our best. You just be ready to take advantage when we knock them off balance." The shuttle launched under the cover of darkness, slipping through the Earth's atmosphere silently. Inside, the team double-checked their gear, weapons ready and faces set with determination. Sarah monitored their progress from the command center, maintaining a tense communication line. "You're approaching the entry window. Activate the transponder now." Mike, piloting the shuttle, flicked the switch, and the craft emitted a Vorak signal. The shuttle approached the command ship, and the bay doors opened silently to receive them. Once inside, the team moved quickly. They split into groups, one setting charges around critical infrastructure, the other heading to the command center to seize control and gather intelligence. The ship was stark and angular, its corridors lined with the cold, metallic sheen of Vorak architecture. They encountered minimal resistance initially. Most Vorak were unaware of the intruders, assuming the alarm was a drill. As they reached the command center, a fierce battle erupted. Vorak soldiers, alerted to the breach, responded with lethal force. Mike and his team fought with precision, pushing forward to the control hub. "Plant the charges! I'll cover you!" Mike shouted over the din of gunfire. His team worked feverishly, attaching explosives to key panels and systems. Meanwhile, John, monitoring from Earth, felt each second stretch into eternity as he waited for the signal. Finally, it came through. "Charges set. We're heading back." Mike's voice crackled over the comm. The shuttle barely cleared the docking bay when the charges detonated, ripping through the command ship with a series of violent explosions. From Earth, the Resistance watched as a bright flare lit the night sky. As the shuttle raced back to Earth, cheers erupted across the command center. The Vorak's command structure was critically damaged, their coordination thrown into chaos. John watched the shuttle's descent, his heart in his throat until he saw it land safely. As the team disembarked, battered but victorious, he was there to greet them, clasping each hand firmly. "You've given us more than a fighting chance," John told them, his voice thick with emotion. "You've given us hope." As they celebrated their victory, John knew this was the turning point. The Resistance could now go on the offensive, taking the fight to the Vorak with humanity's newfound resolve and unity. With the Vorak command ship destroyed, chaos reigned among the alien forces. John Mercer seized this moment, rallying Earth's scattered yet emboldened defenders for a full-scale offensive. The Resistance's goal was clear, to reclaim the planet and eradicate the Vorak presence. In the bustling command center, John laid out the final plans for the global assault. "Today we hit them with everything we've got. Every unit, every weapon, every ounce of courage," John declared to his assembled leaders, his voice resonant and commanding. Beside him, Mike and Sarah nodded, their expressions resolute. As the strategy meeting concluded, soldiers, pilots, and strategists dispersed to their positions, each aware of the gravity of the coming battle. John turned to Mike, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Keep sharp out there. We need all hands returning home." Mike clapped John on the back, a grim smile on his face. Wouldn't miss the victory party for anything. The Resistance launched their assault at dawn. Skies darkened with aircraft, and the ground shook under the march of armored vehicles. In space, the remnants of Earth's satellite defenses targeted Vorex ships attempting to regroup. John led a crucial part of the ground assault aimed at a major Vorex stronghold near what was once Washington, D.C. The stronghold was heavily fortified, bristling with alien technology that had devastated nearby resistance efforts in the past. As they approached, John's forces encountered heavy resistance. Vorex drones swarmed their positions, and energy cannons fired relentlessly. However, Earth's forces were invigorated by their recent successes and pushed forward with renewed vigor. Teams Alpha through Echo, flank left, Foxtrot and Golf, cover fire. John ordered through the comm, his eyes on the digital map displaying troop movements and enemy positions. Explosions rocked the battlefield as human and alien technologies clashed. Amidst the chaos, John coordinated the movements, his mind racing to adapt to the fluid dynamics of the battle. Meanwhile, Sarah led a team infiltrating the stronghold's command center. Using a mix of stealth and brute force, they breached the perimeter, disabling the Vorex communications array. "Command center is ours," Sarah's voice crackled through the comm. "Starting shutdown of their defense grid now." With the Vorex defenses faltering, John's forces made a decisive push. Tanks and infantry moved in, clearing remnants of alien soldiers who fought back desperately but disorganized. The stronghold, once a symbol of Vorex dominance, fell by midday. Across the globe, similar scenes unfolded as humanity reclaimed city after city, the alien invaders retreating or being overwhelmed. As the sun set, a battered yet victorious John surveyed the battlefield. Around him, soldiers cheered and embraced, relief and joy mingling with the fatigue of battle. Mike joined him, his uniform scorched and dirtied, but his eyes bright with triumph. "We did it, John. We really did it," Mike said, his voice filled with wonder and relief. John looked out over the reclaimed land, his heart heavy for the lost but hopeful for the future. "We did, Mike, but the war isn't over until we secure our planet completely." Celebrations broke out worldwide, but they were tempered by the knowledge that pockets of resistance still existed. The next phase would involve rooting out these remnants and rebuilding what was lost. That night, John addressed the world via a broadcast, his face a symbol of human resilience and determination. "Today we celebrate our victory, but tomorrow we continue our fight. Not just to survive, but to thrive. Together, we have shown that humanity will not yield, not to anyone or anything." As people around the globe listened, a new sense of unity and purpose forged from the fires of conflict began to take shape. The battle for Earth was won, but the journey to rebuild and ensure the safety of the planet had just begun. After months of relentless battles, the Earth had been almost fully reclaimed from the Vorex. Cities lay in partial ruins, yet the human spirit surged stronger than ever. In the command center, now bustling with plans for reconstruction, John Mercer oversaw the final operations to cleanse their world of the alien threat. "The last Vorex stronghold has been located in the northern tundra," John announced to his team. "It's small, but heavily fortified. This is our final push." Sarah Jang, still at her post, updated the digital maps. "Satellite imagery confirmed minimal activity. It seems they're on the brink of collapse or planning a last stand." Mike, geared up for the mission, joined John at the front. "Let's end this, once and for all." The mood among the troops was a mix of determination and weary resolve as they prepared for the last assault. This time, humanity wasn't just fighting for survival, but for a future free from the shadow of invasion. The journey to the northern tundra was arduous, the landscape bleak and unforgiving. John led the convoy, his eyes fixed on the horizon. Snow and wind battered their vehicles, but nothing could deter them now. Upon arrival, they set up a perimeter. The stronghold loomed in the distance, a stark structure against the white expanse. John raised his binoculars, studying the alien defenses. "Looks quiet. Too quiet," he murmured. "Could be a trap," Mike suggested, checking his rifle. "Likely," John agreed. "We'll proceed with caution. Full tactical assault, no risks." As they launched the assault, the silence broke with the echo of gunfire and explosives. The Vorex, though few, fought fiercely, unwilling to surrender their last foothold. But Earth's forces, hardened by months of warfare and driven by the memory of lost comrades, pushed forward with unstoppable force. John and Mike worked side by side, covering each other as they breached the facility. Inside, they encountered sporadic resistance. The hallways were lined with strange, metallic ornaments, remnants of a distant culture they had no time to study. Reaching the core of the stronghold, they found a group of Vorek warriors gathered around a strange device. It seemed to be a communication, or perhaps a teleportation unit, possibly their last hope for escape. "No further," John declared, stepping forward. He signaled his team, and within moments, the device was destroyed with a controlled explosive, sealing the fate of the Vorek on Earth. The battle dwindled quickly after that. Surrendering or incapacitated, the remaining Vorek were taken into custody, their fate to be decided by Earth's new global coalition. As the sun set over the icy landscape, John stood beside Mike, watching their troops celebrate. "It's really over, isn't it?" Mike asked, almost in disbelief. "It is. For now, at least," John replied, his thoughts turning to the future. "Our world won't be the same, but maybe, just maybe, we can build something better." In the following weeks, news of the victory and the end of the invasion spread like wildfire. Earth had been scarred by the war, but its people remained unbroken. Reconstruction began, with communities coming together to rebuild not only their cities, but their governments and societies. John, hailed as a hero, chose to remain in a leadership role, committed to guiding humanity on its new path. With the threat of the Vorek gone, Earth's focus turned inward, to healing, rebuilding, and preventing such a catastrophe from ever happening again. Under clear skies once overshadowed by alien ships, children played in the streets of rebuilt cities, and people dared to dream of a peaceful future. Humanity had not only survived, it had triumphed. As John watched Earth slowly blossom anew from the command center, now repurposed as a peacekeeping hub, he realized that the true strength of humanity lay in its ability to rise from ashes, to unify in the face of adversity, and to fight not just for survival, but for the right to build a hopeful tomorrow.